Step up your grill game with new seasonings from Coy's Southern Eats. Based off famous Southern recipes, our seasonings will add what's been missing to your family's feast. Add it to steak, chicken, shrimp, you name it. Serving up these fixings is going to make you the hero at home. So head on over to coyssoutherneats.com and order yours today. Come get you some.
And everybody, welcome to the Tuesday, October 17th edition of the Huddle with Marty Houston. I'm your host, Jason Pattyson, here on hogville.net. I also want to thank our sponsor, Coy Southern Eats, for all of their great commitments. And make sure to go and check them out at coyssoutherneats.com. Also, you can find them at grocery stores in Central Arkansas and Northwest Arkansas, and on Amazon.com. Come rediscover the magic of Coy Southern Eats. Come get you some. Marty, how you doing, man?
Doing great. How are you, sir?
I'm doing pretty darn good. Fall is definitely taking hold. Had the first frost last night out in the backyard. Took the dog out last night or this morning early, and all the rooftops are pretty much covered up here in Rogers.
Starting to feel like football weather.
Oh, yeah, it is. That chilly weather soup season's right around the corner, too, man. That's one of my favorite times of the year.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. When you get that break from the long summer and start to feel that first, and we haven't hit the frost yet, but we were just talking about coming in about the leaves starting to change and all that, and that drive up to Fayetteville and how cool that will look here in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's really turning out. The foliage up here is really pretty right now. It's right in the middle of that transition where you get those really bright greens and the oranges and the yellows. So it's really nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry.
Nothing better than the Ozark Mountains
either. Doesn't get any better. Had to let my sound producer in, Eagle. So he was whining. He was telling me, you're starting the show without me. By gosh, you better let me in the room. You can't do anything without me.
There you go. Yeah, you can't do without that sound producer.
No. He trust me, he produces a lot of sound too.
Yeah, there you go. I know exactly what you're saying.
Oh man, I'm gonna tell you. So I want to bring up something really quick before we get rolling, because I want to talk more baseball, because right now it's in the thick of it because with the ALCS and the NLCS. But there's one thing I do want to bring up, and I'm not trying to call anybody out. I'm not trying to bust on anybody. I want to just be very honest and clear really quickly that this is it true? Mike Norvell at Florida State might come to Arkansas. Now I won't put, and I think you know as well as I do, those rumors should be put to rest, because I, for one, think that Sam will be back next year no matter what.
I don't think that he's fired this year. I think that Mike Norvell's name will always pop up. I think that people will always mention him.
Yep.
And, you know, in my radio play-by-play, I used to cover his wife, Maria Cellino. She was a 6-foot, guard forward for Fort Smith Northside back in the day, won a state championship. Her parents still live in Fort Smith. Mike Norville, graduated from UCA, so he's got ties to the state. I know he's, I'm pretty sure that and I'm pretty sure this is still true, that he's got some property that he visits for family, some family getaways here in the state of Arkansas. So I know that when Bielema was fired, that I'll just say it. I mean, I know that he had interest, and they did not go that way. And I know that that's when they went with Chad Morris. This is when he was at Memphis, and I don't, from everything I've gathered, he did not have the interest the second time around when Morris was fired. I don't know how much of it was explored, but I just think that he squashed early. In fact, I'm wanting to say in the timeline that Florida State may have already hired him by the time that Morris had been fired. So, but his name is always going to come up because of the connections to the state, and maybe one day. But he's got a good job right now. He really does.
Yeah.
And so I mean, I don't think that he's anywhere close into entertaining something like that. And and he's got Florida in the top 5. To say, hey, you've built this up. Why don't you come over to Arkansas and help rebuild that? I just don't. I don't think that the family ties are that, and just like you say, I really don't believe that a trigger is going to be pulled on Sam Pittman right now. I really think you got to go through a couple of really bad years. And so far, I mean, Pittman had elevated the program to a certain extent, and it's going to be up to him in time to elevate it more. But he hasn't gone through a couple of bad years, I don't think. Just yet. I think that he's got a job to do in recruiting, especially some of the guys up front. I think that there's got to be some settling in with Dan Enos and what he's got going on. I think that there's a lot of things that are factors of what's been going on. But when we're at this point at 2-4. And there's not much room for error going between now and the end of the season, Arkansas's got a chance to make a bowl if they win 4 more games. So, and the schedule is very much in their favor now. You might discount the Florida game, on the road. Maybe not. I mean, Arkansas might have a shot in that one. Mississippi State definitely have a shot. Florida International, you got to say that's got to be a win. Auburn not looking too good. I really think it's going to come down to that last game of the year with Missouri, and whether or not, and who knows, Arkansas could be bowl eligible by then. They may have already won their 4 games, but that's kind of what I'm looking at, and they could finish on a much better note than what they started on, so, and you finish like that, and a lot of the stuff about Pittman goes away.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. And I know that Frank said it, and a lot of others have said, you're always remembered in November. What did you do in November that carries you through the off season? One of the couple of stats that I looked at, and I was just kind of perusing through, was the differentiation in stats from last year's team to this year's team. So defensively, they were 118th in total defense in the NCAA last year. This year, through 6 games, they are 51st. Huge jump. Huge jump.
Yeah.
Now, offensively, that's a different story, because offensively, they went from 14th in the country over a 13-game period. And now, mind you, that's with the Liberty game. That's with the LSU game. They were still 14th in the country in overall total offense. Right now, if I'm not mistaken, they're sitting at 118th in the country.
Yeah. Not anything anybody expected, and I think it's just because you're just looking at the pure fact that you had KJ Jefferson and Rocket Sanders back, and not looking at a lot of the other things that they had going on, and the fact that KJ has been hurt so much. They haven't had a 100-yard rusher yet. That's just not Sam Pittman football. That's not. Yeah. He wants to definitely establish the run. Then you lose a guy like Haas, who was really coming on, I think, as an offensive playmaker. I would have loved to see him be available in that Alabama game and what might have happened. Yeah. Just with him there. And you can see they're starting to get better. They're starting to find their other weapons on offense. Defensively, last year you look at it, and the defensive backs were suspect all year. The guys up front were the ones that were better. You had Drew Sanders, who and a pretty good pass rush, but the defensive backs are definitely better this year. The defense is better. You just got to like the job that they're doing. That the new guys are doing with the guys this year, and you're seeing some of them getting better. So, and like I say, I think the offense you will see get better as well as we go through this next stretch of games. Again, the schedule is in Arkansas's favor now, where it was against them. It was a schedule that you hadn't seen since 1925. So. Yeah. I think, again, if you're going to be fair in all of these discussions about the job that Pittman's doing, and taking a look at everything and new coordinators and new schemes putting in, replacing receivers, replacing offensive and defensive linemen, you gotta take all of this into totality, and not just, hey, it's the play calling. There may be some areas that it's justified to talk about the play calling, but that's not everything that's at work, and the things that are working against them, the injuries, the schedule, the new schemes that they're putting in, things like that. And again, the fact that they need to get out and get some more guys up front.
Yeah, that's one of the things that, Cody Kennedy hasn't been really high on, was going and getting guys out of the portal to fill multiple holes, which I wouldn't say that you would need to go through and really kind of overhaul that offensive line, because one of the big things that if you hear any ex-offensive line guy talk about is that you got to have cohesion. And whenever you look at, offensive lines that are in the top 5, top 10, those are guys that have been there for like 2 or 3 years together. And that's where you start to see where, they're working as one unit. And I still think that the days of being able to slap just some guys together out of the portal, throw them out there, unless they're just super talented guys from tackle to tackle, I think that you really will see more guys start to step up. But if they're not, they're also going to get rid of them too.
Yeah. Again, I can't tell you how many offensive linemen I've heard say that, not as many coaches, but linemen that, and they are, the offensive linemen are always a very close unit. The way they hang out and spend time with each other, and the way they treat each other as a brotherhood, and it only takes one guy to mess that up, and it looks like the whole unit is bad. So there's a little bit of that at play, and still some work. Again, not holding anybody blameless on this. They knew this at the end of last year, almost a year ago, that they were losing some of the guys that they were losing. The coordinators that were brought in, the new guys that were coming in, the work that they had to do. Again, I would have said that this defensive unit is a surprise because they are playing better than what I had anticipated going into this one. You looked at the preseason All SEC school, and there was one defensive back in the first three teams, and normally you don't have that. Normally Arkansas's got two or three represented, at least on the first. But we're talking about in the first three teams. So, I mean, there was a lot of no names, and I'll just throw DJ Williams because he and I talk a lot before the season. Like, who are they? Look at a guy like Landon Jackson, who is really coming on now. I mean, had a great game against Alabama Saturday. Incredible. And he was a guy that they took to SEC Media Days, and you looked at his stats from last year, and they weren't that eye-popping. But he is really starting to put it together and looking the part right now. Not only him, but those defensive backs performing very well. It's an aggressive unit, and they're starting to come around. They could have come around. I could use the same excuse with them that hey, they're new, working with a new defensive unit. Those guys are working that out, and I think Danny Nielsen and the offensive staff have to do the same thing, getting on the same page.
Yeah. And that's going to be one. Honestly, every game from here on out, the last 5 games of the season are going to be under the microscope from here on out, because it essentially becomes a week-to-week must-win game. It really does, because you have
you've only got room. Yeah, you've only got room to lose one game. Well, you look at what we have left. You might say Florida on the road. Arkansas hasn't had a lot of success in Gainesville, and you might say that one. You might say Missouri because of the record that Arkansas had against Missouri, but I kind of like that one since it's in Fayetteville. Although Missouri is now top 20, they made the top 25 this week, and they are playing pretty good. Coming off of that win over Kentucky, I think it could come down to that game. You feel good having Auburn here and Mississippi State here. With the seasons they're having, some of the new changes that both of those schools are going through. I mean, you look at the tragedy that Mississippi State's undergone and undergone, and having to change their coaching, starting with the head coach, new head coach there. Even though he's very familiar, Hugh Freeze there in Auburn. They brought in some new stuff there and trying to get used to all of it. So I just, you feel good going into that you've only got room to get one, and you could maybe make a pretty good run on this one. Like I say, I think that last game, the day after Thanksgiving, could be the one, and you win that game, you get to a bowl game, let's say, and I'll just throw this out there. I kind of think that the Texas Bowl is itching to have Arkansas. And you get to 6-6, I think the Texas Bowl will invite the Razorbacks all day long. They they're kind of like the Liberty Bowl. They don't want to invite them every single year, but every other year or every 3 years or so, they'd love to have the Arkansas fan base down there in Houston or in Memphis. And let's say you get to a Texas Bowl, and you have a pretty good feeling about Pittman at the end if you have success there. Pittman has done well in the bowl game so far.
Yeah, he has. I'm telling you, Harold Grader over at the Liberty Bowl might have something to say about Arkansas going to Houston, because he loves having the Razorbacks come. Every time I talked to him a couple of years ago at SEC Media Days, and he told me, he said, if there is ever a chance I can ever get Arkansas to Memphis, he said, I will take it every time. And I was like, all right.
Yeah, I know those folks at the Liberty Bowl. They're great guys over there. They love to invite Arkansas, and again, they know it's not good to do it every single year. Well, Arkansas is bowl eligible again. Let's see if we can get them again. I mean, not only is the Arkansas fan base probably not privy to going to Memphis again, but they want to go to a bowl game, and maybe it's NRG Stadium there in Houston. I kind of think if they could get bowl eligible, Texas Bowl is kind of ready to maybe try to bring them in. They kind of got wasn't it the Texas Bowl during the pandemic that they got scurried out of? They were going to play TCU down there.
Yep, that's correct.
Wasn't
they were
the
going to play
Texas Bowl?
TCU, and then TCU said that Gary Patterson, if I'm not mistaken, it was one of his final years. He said, "We don't have enough guys. We just can't do it," and so they just didn't have it.
Forfeited.
Yeah.
They forfeited the game.
They did. So, speaking of a guy that didn't want to forfeit was Bryce Harper last night. That guy had an incredible game. 31st birthday was last night, had 2 home runs. One of them was a smoke missile to right field off the middle deck, the first of his 2 of the night. And he followed that up right after Kyle Schwarber had a home run in the first inning as well. And they scored 4 runs in the first to jump on the Diamondbacks. And I'm going to tell you what, this Philly buzzsaw in October is just like they just started the engine back up, and they're just trying to plow their way right to the World Series again.
I mean, it looks just like last year.
It does.
That's what to me, I mean, here's the Braves winning 104 games, best record in all of Major League Baseball, and for a second straight year, they get knocked out by the Philadelphia Phillies in the divisional series. Dodgers also got knocked out too. They were another team at 100 wins. But I said this to you last time. You got Zach Wheeler, hitting it. Aaron Nola is hitting it, and as you saw last night, their big hitters are starting to come around. With Bryce Harper, Castellanos. And who was the other one you just said?
Kyle Schwarber.
Guy Schwarber is the other one. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, they're feeling it, and you just got to like where they are. They're on a roll. They and the Rangers.
They are. And that's the next one I was going to bring up because ALCS is being dominated by Rangers pitching. I'm going to tell you what, we are in Evan Uvalde. Or I'm sorry, not Evan Uvalde. What was his first name? I thought it was Evan. Is it Evan Uvalde?
No, it's but it does start with an E. Nathan Uvalde. Nathan Uvalde
and Jordan Montgomery. We're living in their world right now, and there's whenever you shut down the Astros like they did on Sunday, and then they follow it back up with a really strong performance on Monday with a 5-4 victory and steal 2 from Houston in Houston, and then you go back home. It's like, man, there's nothing you can do to kind of stop these guys because right now it just seems like it's wild card baseball more than anything else.
Well, not only that, they're getting ready to bring John Gray and Max Scherzer back. Max Scherzer, I think, is going to get the start tomorrow. He's been on the DL. So is John Gray. Gray has been out, and he's getting ready to be added back on. And Bruce Bochy was saying it. He can't explain it. Why the ebbs and flows with this team. They were in control of the division. They got into August and September, and they lost it. Lost the division title on the last day of the regular season, and they just got into these funks, where they were in losing streaks after they had been in control of the division, lost the division to the Astros, and then losing then it looked like they had it, and then they lost it on the last day. But they have not lost in the playoffs, and that's what you're looking for a team that's going to be in the World Series or going for the World Series. They are 7-0. This is why they made the trades at the deadline to get guys like Montgomery from the Cardinals, who just looked dynamite on Sunday. He looked so good against a very formidable Houston Astros lineup. And now it looks like they're fully armed heading into this one. They need a couple more games to close out the Astros, and you're talking about another team that can hit about as good as the Braves, and it's the Texas Rangers. They're doing the Team Silver Slugger Award, and the Rangers are up for that, and they have just got a lot of good young bats, and now they got some pitching to go along with it. they knew that they may be making a run, and that's why they made the moves that they did. At the trade deadline to bring in Scherzer and Montgomery and make those deals the way they did, because it looks like it's paid off for them, and they are hitting full stride. 7-0 in the playoffs, and not only that, not only are they 7-0, 6 of those 7 games that they've won have been on the road. Think about that. They've only had one playoff game, one at Arlington. So they're getting ready it'll be rocking down there tomorrow night. It should be a lot of fun to watch them and the Astros go at it again.
That's very reminiscent of Dave Van Horn, which, by the way, he found out yesterday he is going to be a grandpa. Not only, I think, either twins or triplets. And Dudley had that
triplet
today.
Holy cow! Holy cow! Yeah.
The way the Rangers they've played, they've been, this whole postseason for them has played out, kind of reminded me of the Razorbacks a couple of years ago, where it's whenever, they could not win a home series to save their life, but whenever they went on the road, it was like they were electric, and it felt like they were trying to pull, a home series here or there out. And that was the year that they, if I'm not mistaken, they went that was the year that they went all the way to the World Series final against Oregon State, if I'm not mistaken.
Again, that's a mark of a good team that can do that on the road, especially, and you're looking at 2 teams that are wild cards with Philadelphia and Texas right now that could be facing off in the World Series possibly. So, it's what fall baseball is all about, and having that pitching come around, and they've got that happening. It'll be interesting to see what Scherzer has, because this is the first time, I think, since early September that Scherzer has been able to pitch. And so, and John Gray has been even longer than that. He started 29 games for the Rangers, but he's been out for a while. So see if they can come back with the sharpness that they're going to need. Certainly they're going to have the adrenaline playing in a home playoff game.
What I also find too really funny, more not interesting, but funny, is that you've got 2 ex-San Francisco Giant managers facing off each other in Texas, while the Giants, it seems like all of a sudden, I don't know, over the last couple of years, they've just kind of fell apart.
Yeah. Both of these guys just know baseball, and they've been around it so long. They both have World Series championships to their credit. They've got the hardware to go along with that, and just a lot of baseball. And you look at their demeanor; they're the older guys that aren't fist pumping or anything like that. I think they're the kind of guys that have great knowledge and add a good demeanor to a young team. A good young lineup. I think Bruce Bochy, with a very, very young lineup there with the Texas Rangers, I think adds a good element, a good mixture to what they have going. And again, Bochy's been around it. He's the reason that they brought it in. They needed that that kind of attitude brought in with the Rangers clubhouse and this young team.
Yeah, that's one of the things that, with like what you were talking about with the older guys, they have analytics at their fingertips. They have guys that are smarter than you or me combined, sitting there running numbers together and giving them every possibility and probability and outcome that they want. Yet they know, honest to God, they've lost so much knowledge, more than we'll ever know of baseball, but they know that, like you said, the ebbs and flows. They know exactly what punch to pull, what guy to insert exactly at the right time, because of just so many years, behind on the bench, and making sure that, these guys are ready. And on top of that, making the right moment, putting those guys in at that right moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And when's the right time to pull a guy? When's the the right time to insert that reliever? When do you know that starter's had enough?
Yeah.
And again, you just see both of them in the dugouts, both the Astros and the Rangers, and they're sitting there with arms folded. They're not too anxious. You just like that kind of demeanor. Especially when you got a lot of young guys that are. And I think Dave Van Horn adds the same thing to the Razorbacks. When you're dealing with college kids.
Yeah, he does. I'm gonna, before we kind of wrap this up, one of the managers, honestly, that both Bruce and Dusty really remind me of is Felipe Alou. That's an older school name. That's one name that a lot of people may not have even heard of, which was the father of Moises Alou. What was so funny is that I was watching an interview with Felipe Alou once, and he said, "I can tell you every pitch that they are going to throw. I'm not going to tell my guys what pitches they're going to throw because I don't want them to I want them to be able to react to that pitch in a natural way. I don't want to tell them so that they can try to set it up one way or another. He wanted them to react to that in their own way." And listening to him talk about that, I was sitting there thinking, man, this guy is really, how can you not just pull for a guy like that? But with the demeanor, that's what kind of reminded me of was a Felipe Alou.
It's fun things. It was like something, I had a chance to spend a little time with Ozzie Smith, just, in a situation this year. And I was reading some stuff about his interactions with Whitey Herzog and the effects that he had on him. He was never a home run hitter, yet he tried to hit home runs. And I think that when he was San Diego, he did. And I think that there was some kind of, it wasn't really a bet, but an agreement that Herzog said, "Hey, I'll give you $10 for every one that you hit on the ground. Every one that you hit on the ground," and turned, Ozzie Smith into a great average player, hitting for average, not average. He was an exceptional player, but hitting for a good average. And that kind of relationship that he had, the way that Herzog liked to manage baseball. You always hear of Whitey ball and playing small ball like he did with the St. Louis Cardinals, but having that one slugger on there, But Ozzie Smith was a big part of that, and some of the little things that he got him to do to quit pulling and hit one on the ground. It didn't matter if he was grounded out or not. It was on the ground. He owed him, I don't know, something like $10 or something like that, and then he had to pay up at the end of the year with him.
Oh man. With Ozzie Smith hitting grounders, I'm going to tell you what, I probably have to take out a mortgage.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Again, it turned him into. He was a great defensive player and great for hitting over 300 and coming up with the base hits. When they needed them. So.
Gotcha. All right. Well, everybody, I want to say thank you again to Marty for jumping on with us this evening, and also make sure to check out all the great content on hogville.net. You can also rewatch any of the shows on Hogville YouTube, and make sure you watch all of the great content on Facebook and Twitter as well. And for Marty Houston and myself, Jason Pattyson, I want to thank you guys for jumping on, and we'll see y'all next Tuesday.